He's disrespecting America.
You know what? Let's roll. We're going. So he paused it on everybody else except China, because then I saw China hit us back, and then we hit them back. So now they're over 100% tariffs, which is interesting. I did hear somebody on the news the other day saying that, which it made sense. Who knows if it's an economist, so I'm more likely to believe them, that China right now, they are playing a hand with a pair of twos, because they already have they already sell more to us than what we take in, so it's going to hurt them more than what it will hurt us, so it doesn't make sense for them to keep raising the tariffs. So these are all apparently just negotiating tactics, because the only people I've heard that I trust to actually give like a non-biased opinion, like experts in the field, other economists, say that right now the position we're in, tariffs are, it's not really a good idea for us to be doing that. Mm-hmm. The whole idea, depending on what Trump's saying that day, sometimes we're in an economic war, and these budget deficits or these trading deficits with other countries are screwing us over, but the deficits never made sense. That idea doesn't make sense to me based off what I'm hearing smarter people say, is we have deficits because we just spend more than what we produce. So these countries aren't ripping us off because
we just keep buying their shit.
Right.
And we don't have the money for it.
Right. So
I don't know if we want to get in a way we're raising the numbers. Like, basically, are we gambling that we understand math better than 1.4 billion Chinese? That might be the most crazy thing about, negotiating with these tariffs.
There is a reason that the math team that won for America, they were all Chinese. Yeah. So whatever.
They were American, technically.
Technically, yes, Luke. Thank you. They were American citizens. Yes. Yeah. It'll be interesting to see. It always causes a little bit of panic in our industry. I'm sure everybody's industry, let's be honest.
Yeah.
About these tariffs.
I think for those that don't know, who say, well, just source your stuff domestically, right? The problem with that is there's nowhere to, like, you have some stuff. You have whey proteins. Obviously, whey protein is a byproduct of cheese manufacturing, so you do have a lot of whey coming out of Wisconsin. But a lot of those prices are driven by China.
Yeah.
China buys a lot, they produce a lot. But then you have other materials where there's no domestic sourcing of it. Either for reasons of there's not a they can't be sourced here. It's not even that there's not a plant here. If you're talking like botanicals, some of that stuff, like, you have to get it from where it's grown. It's impossible to get it.
It depends on the environment, everything.
Right.
And we don't have those conditions here to be able to produce a lot of that.
And then some of it is just those manufacturing plants. If you talk plant, not like vegetable plant, but like industry plant, when you're talking those, if it's something like creatine, so like there's no one's making creatine. It's 3 amino acids. No one's making creatine in the United States. So you could bring that to the United States. I'm sure that's a possibility. But in the immediate, like right now, what does it do to prices? That's the scare. I'm sure, like you said, I'm sure in a lot of industries, but we are the supplement industry is so tied to outside sources. Now, you source everything from outside. We can manufacture, put finished products together in the United States, but so much of our industry has to come from outside the United States for the reasons we just stated.
Yeah.
The tariffs are kind of a scary thing.
Yeah. Well, you said it, how you're able to manufacture it. And I know, again, depending on what Trump's saying that day, we got to bring manufacturing back here to the United States, blah, 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 whatever that means. You can't do it quick enough in regards to the tariffs that he's putting in place. And also, like you mentioned, it's impossible to, like you said, the botanicals, those herbs, a lot of those things, like, you can't produce them.
Right.
You literally cannot make them here in America. And then if you're talking about building the manufacturing, the plants, like, that's something that's going to take probably longer than when he's going to be in office, unless he gets that third term he keeps talking about. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. There's going to be some pain felt, that's for sure.
So interesting is a good word for it. It's a nice word for it.
Yeah. Without getting too political.
Yeah. We'll see. Hopefully it's a bargaining chip. You hope that all the countries don't call our bluff on it. It sounds like a lot of them are willing to negotiate, and that's kind of what what we hope it is, a bargaining chip. But I'll talk to you, Frank, everybody here. The thing is we're, like it or not, we're all in the same boat as an industry. Some companies are going to do well, some aren't. We need to do everything in our power to navigate the waters correctly, and we got products to sell.
Yeah, yeah. It doesn't change it. Doesn't change the objective of the company and our goals.
I have one sports car. One. If I hope to get another one, we got to sell some.
Yeah,
stuff.
we got to sell some. Yeah. That's actually why we work here, so Brian can get another sports car. Is it pronounced Porsche or Porsche? Porsche? Mm-hmm. Well, there's some debate going on. Samira, a while back, she called me out and made fun of me for calling it Porsche. She said it's Porsche. And Luke corrected me this morning.
I thought it was Porsche too.
You're the Porsche guy.
Yeah,
it's
what Brian
Porsche.
says. Yeah.
It's Porsche.
Where does Porsche come from?
Germany.
Okay.
Yeah. He's got an American Porsche.
Made in America.
No, Stuttgart. Stuttgart, Germany.
Classic Stuttgart.
Germany makes the best cars.
Do they?
Porsche, Audi, Mercedes, BMW, Volkswagen.
Literally have never owned any. Oh, I owned a VW for a couple months.
Of all of my named, you would own the VW.
Yeah.
It was a bug, everyone. It
was a
the Beetle.
Jetta.
It was the Beetle.
It was a Jetta.
Are the tariffs going to be kind of like COVID, where companies are just raising prices because they can say, "Oh, tariffs"?
I don't think so.
Because remember, companies got in trouble for that,
right?
Post COVID, because like, there's no more supply chain issues. You guys can't keep using this, as an excuse. Because I've gotten emails from all kinds of companies. I got one yesterday from they make bumper plates and like gym equipment, and they're like, everything's going up. And I've seen it a bunch of other places, so I'll be curious to see.
I have had some of our retail stores reach out and ask if we are raising prices. Yeah. I've told them the truth. Like right now, we don't have to. We haven't seen price increases. Right. But and here's the thing too, you have to remember. So if prices go up, let's say we have 100,000 pounds of protein. Okay. And just for simplicity's sake, that costs us $10 a pound, and the price goes to $15 a pound because of the tariffs. You can't wait until you buy protein again to start charging for the price increase. You have to start charging for the price increase at the time that the price increase happens.
Yeah.
And for those who are like, well, why would you have to do that? Well, if you're going to refill the tank, if we have to sell protein in an amount that we can go back and refill those protein stores at the new price. Yep. It's the same if you own a gas station. So they say, well, the price of oil went up. Why did the gas station down the street raise their prices? Well, because they can't put the fuel back in the ground.
Right.
If they just make margin on the price that they paid for that gas, they'll never be able to afford the higher price gas. So that's why you see these price fluctuations in the moment the market changes.
Yeah. When we were driving up to Joplin yesterday, I asked him, like, are prices going to go down? Like, how often have we ever seen them go down? Creatine went down at one point, but if this is something that's going to affect the market in such a big way, what are the chances that we're going to get the opportunity to lower prices? And it doesn't ever happen.
It doesn't. You see price fluctuations where stuff comes down, but it's like inflation, like anything else. It's on a steady. It's not completely linear. There's ups and downs, but it's over time. It's on a steady increase. If you look back at the prices we were able to purchase and sell. Protein's the easy example of commodities. 5 years ago, 10 years ago, what we thought was high then, we're going, gosh, I wish it was that now. Or, people say, we increased your prices, but we make less margin.
Yeah.
We haven't absorbed, we have had to absorb margin over the years to stay, we're not the only ones to stay competitive as prices have increased.
Yeah. Yeah. It'll be, like I said, it'll be interesting. I really feel like for the most part, the tariffs have been not a bluff, but a negotiating tactic. Mm-hmm. So what's going on with China now is a little bit different because I think our industry alone, a big part of everybody's, that gets their stuff overseas. I thought I saw the stat that 90 or 95% of the manufacturing, maybe just the supplement industry, a lot of that stuff, the raws come from China.
It actually comes from the Wuhan province in China.
COVID was started because of the supplement industry.
There's what is there 9 provinces? I could be completely wrong on it, but I know that that Wuhan province district is a major manufacturing part of China. It's kind of funny. We see raw materials come in. It says you never thought of it before, like right. Wuhan. Oh shit!
Yeah, the Wuhan lab.
Yeah, who coughed on this?
Yeah, it was bat feces. That's what. It was.
Kidding. That was Optimum Nutrition's factory that I was in.
Creatine's an interesting one because there's only 3 major producers of creatine, and 2 of them come out of China.
Well, there's China. Like there's producers in China. I don't know exactly how many are there.
Or I should say there's only like 3 places.
Yeah, I mean you can source it from different plant stuff, but as far as making creatine, there's a few, and then there's 1 in Germany.
Yeah.
In the end, CreaPure, this is true. Not a lot of trademark stuff, but some like patented things. When you're patenting something like creatine, so if you order the raw material creatine and you order it, creatine monohydrate, again, is 3 amino acids combined, and then you order it in terms of mesh, which is just a matter of how fine the particle is blended. So you hear like creatine, micronized creatine. It just has to do with a measurement of mesh. Like 200 mesh is 200 screens per square inch. That's the finest particle you can get creatine down to. So CreaPure is a great product. It comes from Germany. It comes with a C of A certificate of authenticity that shows it's pure creatine. There's a lot of people that say we use trademarked ingredients as well. The reason we don't use a trademarked creatine is because when it comes down to it, it's those 3 amino acids, regardless of where it comes from.
Yeah.
So you can say, well, our ocean water is great. It's salt water from the Pacific Ocean. It's the best.
Yeah.
And you can say, well, this is also salt water, but we sourced it from the Atlantic Ocean. And you say, well, the Pacific Ocean, that's the best.
Yeah.
And then, well, let's see what's the makeup of them. And you find out, oh shit, they're both salt water.
They're the same. Yeah. No, I've seen, not crapping on CreaPure or anything like that. I've sold plenty of products with it in them.
I think CreaPure is a great product, and if I believed it was a superior creatine, then I would put it in our products.
That's what I was going to say. I was getting to the point that something like CreaPure, the trademark or the registered trademark behind it is, I think that's just the selling point. It's more of a marketing gimmick. It's still just creatine, and like you said, when you go down to the mesh, how fine is it produced or whatever, that's the difference right there.
Right.
So it just depends on whether you have that fancy little trademark logo next to it. So, are you worried about the tariffs?
Yeah. I mean,
who's not?
Yeah, I don't know. I guess I wouldn't have described it as worried or scared, but it is something I'm paying attention to, and talking with our suppliers and seeing what's going on their end, what they're seeing, and they're kind of doing the same thing. So.
Yeah, I mean, everybody's going to deal with it, so it's not just specific to us or anybody. Across the board, you're going to see everybody have to deal with it.
I mean, I guess worried about it, yes. My hope is it's temporary.
Yeah.
What happens is temporary, and we can move on better from this. I hope it works. I think anyone, I don't care which way you voted. I think everyone should hope it works. You got to root for the guy in power, because in the end, you don't want to. I don't want to. Regardless of what party it was, I would want that party to win because that's the good of the country.
Yeah.
So I hope this works. I wouldn't say I have my doubts. It's a little shocking.
Yeah, I guess the doubts just come from we're not economists. We don't really know. There's a lot of different factors.
Yeah.
Again, I don't want to get too much into the politics of it. Just hearing Trump talk about it, we did it under President McKinley, blah, blah, blah. But that was prior to the Federal Reserve and the income tax and a lot of different things. So we're living in a completely different time. No one knows.
I think I've tried to listen to it. In fact, I listened to the, is it Treasury Chair?
Bassett or whatever.
Yeah, and I was like, hey, this guy's smart. He thinks it's going to work like this. I'm glad I listened because I've listened to the other side of it. This is a fucking disaster.
Well, that's the funny thing. I try to stay out of, somebody that's connected to the administration because they're just going to come out and try and sell it. But then I won't listen to MSNBC, CNN, and anybody out there that's critiquing it because they, at one point, the left was for tariffs. And then you see the right's response. It was see, you guys were for tariffs. You just hate the country, blah, blah, blah. But, both sides do that same thing where they'll pick and point. Like, you used to say this and now you don't.
There's some very smart people, obviously, that are in that administration that believe that this is the correct move. It wasn't one guy's decision. There's also some very smart people who believe that this was a real big misstep and it's going to hurt.
Yeah.
I think the truth is no one really knows.
Right.
There's no guarantee. There's too many factors. You're talking global economics, too many factors. No one really knows. It's a gamble.
Yeah.
Hopefully an educated one.
Yeah. Hopefully. Fingers crossed. I did see there are a few types of supplements that aren't going to be affected. A couple of those like lobbying bodies that are up in DC that kind of represent the supplement industry. They got choline. I remember choline being taken off, and then micronutrients. Like, I don't think multivitamins necessarily are going to be too affected by that. And there was something else, but we'll see what happens.
Okay.
So, Luke, pull up that video. Let's show Brian. I want to get into this topic. We don't have to name names, but
and there's no like audio on the video, so maybe kind of explain to people that are just listening.
Okay.
After you guys watch it.
Yeah.
I didn't know you had an OnlyFans account.
This is a dietitian showing you what he eats in a day.
Okay. Good.
He's eating a protein oatmeal, so it looked like a chocolate chip cookie. Just ate some nuts and an apple. What was that you just pulled out? Hot chocolate. Oh, chamomile tea was in there, and some hot chocolate. Now, if you were a dietitian and you were trying to make videos to put on your TikTok, what would be in your lunchbox?
Well, I would try to eat like a man.
I had similar comments, but they cannot be
They
repeated.
weren't that nice.
Yeah, I mean, he's a handsome, slender man. But if I wanted to walk around and people like, oh, that guy definitely has an XY chromosome, I would probably put some more protein. It's a very healthy. What he's eating is very healthy. I think it's like what people, if you laid food on a table and said like, this is healthy, this isn't. We talk like that. Like,
a completely uneducated person.
Yeah, but nothing's wrong with it. You eat all that. That's fine.
Yeah,
but there's also very little protein.
It looked like he packed
zero complete proteins in there, and I think that's.
If I had to guess, that oatmeal, the protein oatmeal that he uses, probably a vegan protein.
Yeah,
that was my guess.
Yeah, I mean, in his, but that's just lunch. Maybe he had steak and eggs for breakfast.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay.
Well, it looked like he packed a lunch for a toddler going off to daycare.
My kid wouldn't eat that shit. They wouldn't. They wouldn't. Some of it, again, it's very healthy. He'll probably live a long, slender, skinny life.
Less musculature.
Yeah.
Life.
Yeah. He'll live into his, until his elder years, and when his muscles finally disappear, he'll just float away.
He'll disintegrate.
He'll just burn his last calorie.
It is interesting because we've seen a lot of dietitians kind of recommend similar type stuff. Well, I want to get into sports dietitians here in a sec. But I think it speaks to institutionalized education. If we're going to break it down into segments, just like, where does that person get their education for that? Because that is almost like completely ass backwards from what we would recommend to people. You're learning off the basic food pyramid. If I just think back to my college classes on nutrition and who was teaching it, and like, are we really taking nutritional advice from this person? Not that they were a bad person or anything, but it's like your reality doesn't match up, with what you're seeing. I always go back to the education where we have to start somewhere. I really wish, we could get people in these institutions to change the dichotomy of what proper nutrition looks like, or at least have the debate on it, because we'll get to your interaction in a second, but you're almost looked down upon if you have the nutrition view that we do, or a lot of people in our industry do. Yeah.
I mean, it's just a short way of, that's meathead. That's short for uneducated or you know,
bro science.
Yeah.
They have all these, I call them myths, but you know, it's almost like it's all based on those myths, what they choose to eat or what they choose to preach or tell people what's healthy. Like, don't eat a lot of red meat. It's going to be really bad for you. Stay away from saturated fats. That stuff's really bad for you. It's just like, if there's a playbook on how to do, if there's a playbook for just basic generic education and you go through an institution, you learn institutionalized knowledge, that's what you're going to get. And the playbook needs to be rewritten on that.
You're right. I will say this though, that you mentioned the food pyramid.
Yeah.
Is it correct? Like, no, I wouldn't say, you know, that's the basis, but if people were to follow the food pyramid, they would look a lot different than what Americans look like. Like, you get 75%, 74% of Americans are overweight, with nearly half. Okay, depending on what sources you look at, it's like upper 40s percentile wise that are obese. Yep. That's fucking insane. Well, and if you ate like that guy, you guys didn't see it, but you're gonna put the video.
Put it up.
So put the video in. Like, if you ate like him, if everyone were to eat like that, now I wouldn't be full. I'd want more protein. I want more. But if you ate like that, goddamn, people would be a lot healthier. Yeah. So in a sense of just, hey, this is what to eat. Take sports performance. You know, he has no interest in building muscle. It's clear.
Yeah.
You know, if I could like press a button and the whole country would decide to eat like that, and our healthcare costs would plummet because everyone would be much healthier, eating less fat, less shit. There's no processed foods in there. Fucking great.
Yeah.
Great. If people want to look at if we really thought the food guide pyramid was how people are going to eat, and all the processed food, junk food stuff was going to be very sparingly, right? None a day. And so you're going to have some whole grains. You're going to have oats and things like that. That's going to be the basis of it. Even that. And then what else comes with that is always the calories, right? Yeah. 2,200 calories. If everyone just did that, we'd look vastly different as a country. So you kind of, I understand the point. So, but I don't want to paint with a broad brush and say all the education is terrible. It's all bad. It's that we don't follow it. And then the people who are educating on what to eat are misguided. There is some misnomers in there. Eggs are bad. The red meats are bad. They don't take into account. I think there's kind of an awakening of why that is, and what especially the studies with red meat and what else, you know, the sugars they're sucking down, the fries and the trans fats and all this stuff. But yeah, for forever, I think you got stuck in. Well, fats were bad. You know, you're eating too many fats, and so those calories. And
insert margarine.
Yes, and then highly processed carbohydrates, which is the worst thing. That's when you have type 2 diabetes go through the roof, which used to be adult onset diabetes.
I was just going to say that. Kids now having type 2 diabetes, it was unheard of because it was called adult onset diabetes. Yeah,
and the kids have had type 1. That's an autoimmune function. So kids have had that, but the type 2 is different. There's a lot of unfortunately, there's a lot of kids that I saw. A buddy of mine sent me a video. It was on Japan's their government's like nutritional guidelines, and they actually have a very well-paid person in every school in Japan that helps curate the meals for the kids, but also is the education person for it's actually a class that how they eat and and there's it's like 6% overweight in Japan with no kids. I mean, I'm sure there's some, like it's a sumo culture, right? So there's going to be some of that.
Highly honorable.
But they're wrestlers, so we let that pass. It's a heavyweight. It's not I don't think we went wrong with the food guide pyramid. I don't think you can't even blame education on, hey, there's some silly stuff, you know, how many dietitians we've seen. If you make sure, if you want to pack a good protein, get your peanut butter. What?
Yeah.
Your peanut butter, you know?
Yeah.
Everyone told me, well, we eat almonds after we work out for protein. Like, it's the fucking opposite you want to eat after. Almonds are great. Also, don't eat them when you get them working out if the purpose is performance, but they weren't really trained in high performance. You're talking just a dietitian. If you get a regular dietetics degree, there's less on, like, here's why. Because you're going to go into a nursing home, and you could go do that job and help curate the meals and stuff for you know, people in their 80s and beyond, what they need to eat. But that same job, you could land doing sports performance at a college, you know, and there's a difference there. And I don't think that's all taken into consideration by the faculty who's just saying, we need a dietitian. We got to help these athletes out. Yeah. So you need, there's like, there, you know, you can be, you can be a general, not general, you can, well, sure, you can be a general surgeon or you can be a brain surgeon. Yep. And there's a difference there. So I think that there are people that specialize, and I think that's what I would look to in terms of the education or information you're getting. There's some very good, you know, doctorate level, like well beyond what I am, what we are sitting here, educating on nutrition, but that's not always what you get. And for the general public, if you don't know, if they just have some initials after their name, you assume like they know what the fuck they're talking about. And that's not always the case. Yeah. But I don't think it's the fault of, I don't like the regulatory bodies. If you're talking like FDA, food pyramid, that's not the issue. I think that if you want to blame the FDA, blame for all the shit that they let flow in, you know, like we had in the last conversation, all the companies that are, the FDA is funded by Coca-Cola and all, you know, all these fucking hostess.
Well, and that's where, you know, yeah, am I painting with a broad brush a little bit? But if you follow the food pyramid to a T, ate, you know, in a caloric deficit, sure, you're going to be healthier than not. Yeah. Is it optimal? I don't think so at all.
Be jacked.
Yeah. If you want to be jacked, you're not going to get it through the food pyramid. But even the food pyramid itself, I think it was created in the 50s, early 60s, and that was all funded by...
The food pyramid's newer than that, because it used to be the...
I mean, I'm thinking when they first introduced the food pyramid. I know
it was a square. What was it before the food pyramid? Grab that laptop.
It was
a square.
It may have been a square. All I know is the original, for lack of a better term,
food pyramid. The food pyramid was like 90s.
No, it was in the 50s or 60s. It was Dr. Ansel Keys. And he was being funded by something with like the grains industry, something like that, sugar companies. No dead air, Luke.
1947 looks like when the original food pyramid came out. It doesn't say the shape. So it could have been a circle for all. In 1993, it was updated.
Okay, that was last time it was updated.
But maybe it was adopted in 93. Like this is the new guy. But it did used to be like 4 boxes of what to eat.
Yeah. Did you ever watch the documentary Fed Up? Katie Couric, I'm pretty sure, is the one who...
I know it, but I don't know that I've watched
it. That's where I first got introduced to, like, you know, big money getting involved in all this stuff. And I remember Dr. Ansel Keys was one of those guys who came up with, like, the original food pyramid. And then you find out later that he was getting money from these certain industries because they really wanted to push the grains and all that stuff because of industrialized agriculture. What do we do with all this
corn? High fructose corn syrup. You know, we have a surplus. We can't feed all of our cattle, right? That's changing the makeup of our meat and red meat, chickens right there. It's a really cheap and expensive crop. And then there's the whole like, well, then it's subsidized. What else can we do with it? We can make these foods, drinks more palatable. Like it's a whole
it's a rabbit hole to go down for sure.
A really downward spiral in terms of, you know, you can track when that was instituted, when it was started putting food, and then the decline in health in America. And then if you really want to follow it down like the rabbit hole, like you said, well then you see insurance companies get involved in the cost of medicines, and it's everyone wants a cut of our decline in health.
It's again, the education portion of it and the people that are in control of the education that you're going to get in regards to just the food pyramid stuff. Like there's so much money, there's so much power behind that. And I always talk about putting the right people in place, but as you come to find out, and you're seeing right now, if anybody's paying attention to Bobby Kennedy and stuff, what's going on with him and kind of backtracking on a lot of the things he said, they find ways to kind of keep the people that could make a change.
Bobby Kennedy, remind me what he sounds like, Tyler.
What should I say, Luke?
Something about a worm in your brain for sure.
When I was sitting at home, the worm in my brain was telling me that we can't keep eating margarine.
Bobby, did you kill a bear and put it in a park? What did you do?
We had to make sure that it was fresh for us to eat, so we let it sit in the park first to make sure the buzzards around it didn't die. And then I put it in the trunk of my car. I could get better. I need to workshop that a little bit more.
Sorry about your family.
Sorry about your dad and uncle. Let's move on to sports dietitians. What's your experience with those people?
Well, good.
We won't give names. We won't give cities, locations.
But I wish I had a professor in college. I wish I could remember his name because he was a total tool bag. I knew that I didn't know shit. Like I didn't know shit at the time, but I knew then like this guy's full of shit. I remember he was a little skinny dude from Texas, and he drove this giant. It was like one of the Chevy Avalanche, you know,
yep.
Like a huge compensating. You know, I'm a fan of compensating, by the way. But this little dude, I remember like he would just pick out stuff to educate you on to make himself feel better for not knowing shit.
Right.
I can't remember what the class was, but it was health. I was exercise science major. It was a health class. He said, "You big guys going in there and bench pressing, coming all the way down, touching your chest. That's not what you need to do. You're going to hurt your shoulders. You need, you got to go down. You go about 4 to 6 inches, then you press it back up. All that you think you need to go at full range most. I'm like, that's not what you need. All these big guys think, well, I don't know. You look like a bag of smashed ass, and all these big guys, with their big chest, are doing it wrong. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? Could I run faster if I didn't pick my knees up very far too?
Yeah,
you know. And he was an educator. But I remember, so I worked retail. I worked at the GNC in the town I went to college, and he came in and he said, he was a runner. Okay, nothing against running, but of course, he's a long distance runner. Okay, just pretentious as hell. And he came in, and he just needs some more energy for his runs. And so I'm like, well, here we have this in Durox, and it's a carbohydrate. I was looking at Hydroxycut Extreme. I was like, well, that'll give you like caffeine and stimulants, but it's a vasoconstrictor. I'm trying to explain. I think it even had ephedrine in it.
It did have
at the time. You know, this is early 2000s. No. I think the Hydroxycut. I'm like, well, you could. So I showed him like some pre-workouts. Like these have caffeine, performance enhancers, and vasodilators. So you're going to get more blood. I'm gonna get that Hydroxycut. Yeah, don't forget to fucking do a half a bench press too.
Plot twist: he died on the run.
Yeah. He had a license plate like Big Tech. It was just, dude, it was the most, goodness. Yeah. He was a total tool bag. I really wish I could think of his name. He was forgettable.
It almost sounds memorable.
Yeah. Well, as far as that, I just remember those two examples. I won't go on.
Yeah.
But that was his whole class. Like, listen to me preach the shit that I think is correct because it's what I do.
Yeah.
With no really backing of this is why. Just you guys sit there and listen. This is why I'm
the authority.
This is why the shortcuts I've taken, I'm going to justify them and call it education to you.
Yeah. I've seen some really good training. We should have maybe talked about this on the last episode, talking about athletes and whatnot, but really good training tables at some Division I schools that I do think had, excellent nutritionists, dietitians that were heading those programs. Dave Ellis at Nebraska, he did a really good job with the training tables. When I was a strength and conditioning coach back up in Omaha, we were basically just an extension of the Husker Power program, kind of the old school program with some updates to it, but like the nutrition portion was pretty much on par with what he was doing. So they were very much like, make sure your plate's really colorful. I would have liked to have seen them talk a little bit more about protein, go a little bit heavier on the protein for the athletes, but it's not something that you're like, hey, make sure you get your almonds and peanut butter after a workout. What are some of the most egregious nuggets of advice you've seen athletes get?
I think, probably just under eating of protein is huge. Yeah. Now, if you're talking athletics and performance, protein aside, like carbohydrates are going to be really important.
Yep.
It's especially with college athletes, it's difficult to get. They're limited on the resources they have. They're not going to a Whole Foods and picking out these really balanced whole food diets. So that's kind of part of the trick too. They're limited to what they're going to eat on campus and what their meal table is going to be like. But I think lack of attention to protein, especially during training and for recovery, is big. Now I will say we've partnered with Missouri State. We sponsor Missouri State athletics, and we have seen a huge increase in them using protein shakes and our weight gainer and stuff post workout. They had their NCAA rule there's no NCAA approved supplements, but there's NCAA compliant. So I mean, it's fine to take them. So, and there's some weird things in there. Creatine, for example, it's completely compliant. You're fine to take it as an NCAA athlete, but the school can't provide it for them. So with the NIL, they have these different players associations and stuff. So they have been able to provide through the player associations, not through the school, some of the supplements too. So it's nice to see them kind of take some of the strength coach and some of the athletic trainers kind of take the lead and say, hey, we need not only to get their nutrition correct, but now we're going to supplement, we're going to plug in, and it's been proteins, greens, reds, which I think is very important, like plugging those things in to athletes. And they've even, this is kind of a cool one. My buddy Mitch, who's an athletic trainer there, he's even taken it, and they have like a stack that they give to injured athletes, which is like collagen and glutamine and fish oils, to address
Reds was a big one for the blood flow.
Just like really smart. Like if you're injured, let's get you back on the playing field. So there's a performance aspect and a recovery aspect that they're looking at too. And so I think they're.
I really appreciate that, because I think when you're dealing with Division I athletes or pro athletes, like, they're there for a reason. Like, they weren't there just because they worked out really a lot. There's a lot that can get to the pros without having, the work ethic and the talent or whatever, or the work ethic, but they've got the talent. So to fine tune stuff like that, especially for individual to such a detailed degree, I think it's cool, but I think it's really important. And it's kind of an art, but it gets lost amongst the masses.
Yeah. And when you have, they're, I guess if we're talking about Missouri State or local school, they're going their football, they're Division I school, their football, they're 1AA, but they're going full Division I next year. And so I think when you're looking, there's so much money in those programs, there's so much competition, and there's very little in separating you from being the top of your conference to the bottom of your conference in terms of coaching, recruiting, strength program, all that. Like, little slivers of help can be the difference maker. And so the fact that I think you're going to see more and more schools looking for advantages in not just in supplementation, but nutrition overall. And how do we get our nutrition? How do we get the maximum amount of performance out of these guys? Once we bring them in, it's really developing athletes. Yeah. And taking a good look at their nutrition is a big part of it.
Yep. So you said lack of protein, a lack of focus, but is there anything like specific you've seen people recommended and it just leaves your head scratching?
What have we seen? We've seen I mentioned the peanut butter. Here's these healthy snacks. Here's the peanut butter.
Chocolate milk used to be
chocolate milk huge. Was a big one.
Chocolate milk, and that's one like okay. If you don't have anything else, chocolate milk is better. I'd say chocolate milk is better than just drinking a Gatorade. Like, at least you have some protein. But if you're a 300-pound lineman and you need to be eating about 300 grams of protein a day, really tough to do if your post-workout meal consists of chocolate milk. There's just not much. There's 4 grams of protein, and
I may be wrong on this, but I want to say the studies that they were doing with the milk, they literally were just comparing it to water. So of course you're going to get it's going to be a better option, right? So, but we were always told that go home, drink chocolate milk, you got your 30-minute window to get your chocolate milk in. I remember racing home after high school. Let's got to get that in.
I think chocolate milk is great, and it's even better if you put a scoop of Titan Nutrition whey protein isolate creamy peanut butter in there.
Yep.
That's delicious too. That's the best way to have a chocolate milk, and the best way to build muscle following a workout. You dump a scoop of creatine that you're basically on steroids.
Basically, yeah. Steroids for everybody. What else?
What else have I seen? I don't know what I'd say is egregious. Just
Uncrustables. Peanut butter jelly.
Uncrustables. Recommending stuff that's in a box, in a wrapper, and going through a drive-through is probably not the best recommendation. And like I said, I want to give some grace because
I think they're playing to the convenience of being a college student.
They're limited. Yeah, they're very limited on what they can do. But there is a lot of like I said, don't forget your protein. Eat your peanuts and almonds, and peanuts and almonds are great, and there's a place for them, but they're not. They are not. When you talk to anyone that's doing meal prep, diets, et cetera, and you're separating them into your categories, nuts are not going to be in the protein category.
When you're accounting for the calories and stuff, then you're just going to blow that out of proportion.
Right.
And to keep it simple for people, like when you are thinking about you need to get your protein intake up, just make sure it comes from an animal, like a byproduct of that animal. Yeah. That's how you know you're getting complete protein in there. Otherwise, you're missing out. I guess you can be a vegan bodybuilder or a vegan athlete. They obviously exist, but
you will. Very tiresome. It will be much, much harder, and you could do the very best job you possibly can being a vegan bodybuilder, and you will still be at a disadvantage.
Yeah.
From eating animal proteins, just the amino acid profile is not as good.
Yeah.
You can really, and then if for non-vegan athletes, then the where you can source your protein is like limitless and delicious and very easy.
Yeah. What else you got, Luke? You got any questions for us?
So much.
Let's go for it.
This one, it doesn't pertain to anything. I've just seen it. I know you guys are on TikTok, so I'm your TikTok surrogate here.
Yep.
There's a big trend right now. First, it was like the protein. All the workout girlies and boys were obsessed with their protein and showing how they were getting their protein in. I've seen lately people are like, stop worrying about your protein. Nobody's dying from lack of protein. Everyone's dying from like colon cancer. So fiber is more important. What do you guys think about that? Is
fiber super important.
Is fiber going to keep me from getting colon cancer?
Yes, I mean, possibly. I'm a huge advocate for fiber. Fiber is a prebiotic. It does help clean out your system. People who feel bloated, gassy, take your fiber. And I think here's a big misnomer. If we're talking misnomers on fiber, people think that if you take fiber, you'll get the shits. Yeah. Fiber is the great equalizer. So it would sound counterintuitive to most people to say like, I have diarrhea, I'm going to take some fiber. However, fiber, take like psyllium husk. Okay, psyllium husk is like the Metamucil. Okay, it's like with the old people, right? They take it to keep things moving. It's not about keeping things moving. Yes, it does help keep things moving, but think of fiber as the great regulator. So you take that Metamucil, it's like sawdust, but it expands to like I don't know 50 times the size it is because it adds bulk. It pulls water into your digestive system, which is a healthy thing, and helps add bulk to your stool. So as things move through, you're kind of collecting these what would you call them?
It's left behind.
Yeah, you're cleaning out your system naturally. And when humans and animals were omnivores, when we used to forage and eat seeds and a lot of roots and things like that, then you were getting a lot more of these fibers. We don't have that today. Even a lot of times in our whole foods like rice, potatoes, things like that, or the carbohydrate choices we have, because we're not eating as much root and lentils and things like that, then your body's kind of lacking some fiber. So a really simple solution. I take fiber. I'm fanatic about it. Like I take fiber nearly every meal, just a small amount, a little teaspoon or so, half a tablespoon of fiber. One, because it actually helps digest and with nutrient partitioning stuff with the foods you're eating. So, and it's a great, very healthy prebiotic to kind of set the stage in your digestive system for the food you're eating. So men, you want to get around 35 grams of fiber a day. For women, maybe 20 to 30 grams of fiber a day. Yeah.
Mentions a prebiotic. The prebiotics, they're food for
probiotics.
Probiotics, yeah. Good bacteria.
Yeah, most like people, I think probiotics are very popular to take. They don't really hear prebiotics as much. But if you want to increase naturally the probiotics that your body has, then take some prebiotics, take some fiber.
Yep. And if you're somebody who's ever done one of those cleanses, detox, like in regards to this term, the ones that kind of like make you shit, that clean your system out, you always want to follow it up with probiotics. Uh-huh. So, because all that stuff's trying to pull all that shit out of your system, so you're going to lose a lot of the good bacteria.
Good and the bad. Yeah.
So always follow it up with a good probiotic. The greens, they have the probiotics. Yeah. Citrus has the prebiotics.
Even for young people, like you think, if you're very regular, it's like try this. Go get a thing of. So the one I like is the stevia sweetened Metamucil. That I usually get the off-brand one, or you can just if you don't want to take have a drink. I actually like just knock it back, dry scoop it, wash it down before a meal. But you can go get the capsules. So I'll do like the little Metamucil or psyllium husk capsules, and take like 4 of those right before you eat your meal. You will start having the best double tapered shits you've ever had.
If you've ever traveled the continental United States with Brian, and your flight gets in about 10 o'clock at night, you're making a trip to Walmart so that we can get that fiber.
I forgot to take it. Yeah, we're getting that. And then we will both have the best double tapered shits in our life. Like toilet paper? Like, nah, I don't need it.
Don't need it.
No.
Don't need it.
No.
I feel like you guys are too nice to college athletes. And like, oh, they don't have
can tear them
time.
down.
They don't have, they're college. It's like, they're not anymore. So they have no excuses to be eating peanut butter and jelly and chocolate.
Okay, well, you saying that.
You're talking about 5% of college athletes. There's a huge realm.
We don't care about the rest of them.
Yeah.
I'm talking about the ones on TV, baby.
Those 18 to 23
did you guys see that?
Yeah.
The guard from he's either going to Maryland or going to Tennessee. He's obviously D1, so he's
Whoever's going to play the most money.
And he's not going to get drafted. He's probably not going to play in the NBA. He's still going to make $4 million at college.
Good for him.
What's your point?
Yeah, what are you trying to...
Is more of them are making money than I think you guys are saying.
So yes, for those making millions, you need to get a dietitian. A sports performance dietitian. But I think if you're talking, I mean, even Division I NCAA guys, most of them are. I don't know if I thought I was struggling. I didn't have any fucking money, and I didn't really need a lot of money in college. I had some scholarship, and
what were you
a part-time job, and
what were you saying exactly, Luke? Like they don't have an excuse to not.
Yeah.
Well, this is what always has kind of blown my mind with being athletics, and if you really want to be good at your sport, and like that's all you're focused on, which most of these kids are, because that's their entire lives revolve around it. Why would you not do everything possible to make sure that you're maximizing your time in the weight room, your time on the practice field? So like, yeah, why would you not want to? It comes down to it comes down to just how important is it to you,
and like the knowledge and know-how too.
Right.
Like I thought when I was a college athlete that I was, operating at the peak of performance, and I did try to eat good and train hard and all those things. But looking back on, I could have done a much better job. You're limited to the, not just the resources, but the knowledge you have at the time. You're talking about an 18-year-old kid coming out of high school. He's going to have some instruction on what to eat, and of course, strength coaches and things like that. But a lot of it is up to you, and without knowing, really nuances of training and nutrition stuff, you're going to do the best you can. So regardless of money, I think that's what a lot of people are. I'm sure if you look back at your college football career, you're like, well, hell, if I went there now with your 35-year-old brain, like you would do a lot of things.
It's all hindsight, really.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean,
you don't want a national championship.
Yeah, I definitely did.
Coach would have put you in.
He definitely would have put me in if we made it that far. Yeah, I just think it, especially now there's so much information out there. So who's the athlete going to get their information? Are they getting it online? Are they getting it from their strength coach? Well, where's that strength coach getting it from? Where's their nutritionist getting it from? What school of thought do they approach it with? It's easy to, shit on the kids that don't know, but there's also the kids that are just lazy and they can kind of just skate by on their talent, which has always annoyed me. That like, man,
did you party in college?
Did I?
Yeah.
Not to the degree that a lot of my friends did.
Same, but I did it. I did it, and like I guess it probably had much more appeal then than it does now. It wasn't something I did in season, but man, if you really want to take it seriously, and you don't have the advantage of hindsight in the moment.
Exactly.
It's a fucking grind. I got 5 years of this shit, in practice is grinding, and you don't realize how short and limited and like. That's it.
Yeah.
After that's real life.
Nobody contemplates what their life looks like after college.
And you look back at that, and I think I'll give you you're using wrestling for example.
Brian loves a good wrestling example.
Well, it's my I didn't play anything else.
We know.
I didn't play anything else. So using that example, like that's kind of the things that you think at the time are a grind, and it is. Like, man, you get done with the match and you're breathing like your lungs are on fire, right? Like your throat's going to split. You're breathing so hard and your throat's so dry, your mouth is dry, and your forearms are so pumped, from gripping, you can't hardly close your forearms. The back of your neck hurts. You had a guy laying on, hanging on your head. Your face is scraped up. You got mat rash on your face.
Yep.
And looking back, like, you're never going to feel more alive than right there in that moment. And goddamn, if you get your hand raised at the end of that experience, There's no better feeling in life because you know you went through that.
Right.
But at the time, you don't realize that's great.
Yeah.
God, I feel alive. All you're thinking is like, God, fuck, I'm glad that's over and I ended up on the right side of it.
Right.
You know, because there's the opposite of that too, which is why that feeling feels so good because you can go through all that and lose. So I think that's why you look back and kind of romanticize about those times is because you did hard things and they were hard and stuff. So you always look back like, if I would have taken it more serious, if I would have, but in the moment, it's very hard to say like, you know what, I'm going to buckle down. I'm not going to go to the party this weekend. And you know, that girl's not that pretty. She can stay in her dorm room. I'm not going to take her out. You know, like what? You know?
Yeah, I know. You're not really ever going to get, you know, what you want.
You're going to make some bad decisions.
Yeah. And it all comes down to the team you're on, the coaches, you know, what's the culture like? I mean, I've always talked about in high school, we had an amazing culture. We had a great football coach, great strength coach, and they were like brothers. So it's like these forces just happened to combine at the right time to create like this really awesome program. And, you know, looking back now, it wasn't just about winning. They were definitely more concerned about what type of people they were pumping out of that program. They could care less. They wanted to win, but, you know, they would always say, I'd rather lose with the right guys than win with the wrong guys, which it makes sense to me now, you know, coming out into the real world. But yeah, if I think you're more likely to do the right things and take every little detail into consideration if you're in the right culture and the right experience. But then, you know, you go to college, and not trying to dump on any of the colleges that I played at, but you know, if your high school experience is a little bit more business-like and the culture,
that's wild.
It is crazy. Like the first place I was at, it's just kind of funny playing college football, and we didn't go full shells, full rack all season. We were only in half rack, so we were just in shells, helmet and pads, and we just got to wear shorts the entire season, which was kind of cool.
That's wild.
But it was also like, how is this conducive to us ever winning? And we won 2 games, so kind of explains. Didn't watch film, never had film sessions. Then when I transferred, it was a little bit more business. Like you had film during the day, you had to go to. You had, you know, meetings after the game. Like, so it was a step.
You never
up.
watched film?
Not
in a college program.
Not at my first college. No.
What is that college? Say it.
Peru State College.
Say the name.
And you know what? Shout out to them. One, they were a lot cheaper than the Nebraska Wesleyan that I ended up transferring to.
They save money on video cameras.
Yeah, no kidding. But if you were to go back to Peru right now and look at it, it's an insane looking NAI school. They redid the stadium. They've got indoor sports complex now. They have it's insane. It's
chocolate milk on tap.
Chocolate milk on tap. It is insane. But yeah, that was just it was kind of a mind blowing experience to go from a place where, you know, it was very business like in high school. You did not want to disappoint your football coach and your strength coach at the high school I went to, and then to watch guys just throw dips in before they go out for a game, or we would sit. I think we watched film one time, and we just let the film run the entire time. We didn't like play it back. We didn't talk about the players.
It was your coach's state championship game from '64. Shh, watch this play. Yeah. Watch this play, fellas.
But yeah, then when I transferred, it was we got scouting reports, we got a book, we identified players, we watched film all the time. So it was a step up.
There wasn't a performance bonus for that coach at Purdue State.
No, yeah. Peru. Put some respect on that name. Yeah. So nobody there was taken into consideration. You know, how am I feeling? We were definitely just worried about getting to the weekend and partying. We always said, win or lose, we booze. And we did. And then when we would win, it was so cringy. We would all get in the center of the field, and we'd put our helmets up, and we'd start chanting, "There ain't no party like a Bobcat party," because the Bobcat party don't stop. We got to do it twice that year.
Oh my God.
Wow. What a terrible experience.
The good thing is I think there's 2 guys from that college that actually like me, so not very many people are going to see this. So
wow.
Yeah. Okay. Pretty interesting.
It is interesting.
Yeah.
We'll have to do a whole episode on your guys' college escapades.
My huddle highlights are still up. There's about 2 total minutes out there.
We won't.
Yeah.
Be a short one.
Yeah, it'd be a short one. We'll just put it in at the end of this episode. Yeah. Any more questions from the TikTok crowd, Luke?
Nothing yet. I'll keep my eyes peeled, though.
Anything I can answer for you personally? No dead air.
How do... No, I don't have anything else.
Okay. We'll wrap it up then.
Let's wrap it up.
Yep. Later.